Problem doesn't always fix it. In this case, the problem is the state's unemployment system, and it's your money being spent. A lot of it.
13 Chief Investigator Darcy Spears spent more than a year digging into Dieter's ongoing problems and uncovers new information on what some consider the cost of failure.
The pain,
5.5-hour wait times, and people being dropped right and left from calls.
and frustration.
I'd been getting unemployment for over a year. All of a sudden, they have this new identification system.
Felt all over the state. 2 contracts signed by the state in August amount to millions of tax dollars because the State Department of Employment, Training and Rehabilitation, known as DETR, admittedly faltered under the strain of pandemic-induced unemployment.
But we were just absolutely overwhelmed with applications and work like we had never seen before.
The newest hurdle came with the recently passed Continued Assistance Act. Congress required states to verify the identity of every single claimant in regular UI and in the PUA system, which serves independent contractors, the self-employed, and gig workers. The goal? To protect legitimate claimants and weed out fraud. DETR told state leaders it did not have the ability to do that.
But we were dealing with just overwhelming fraudulent applications.
The solution was an emergency no-bid contract with Virginia-based ID.me. It runs through the end of this year with a price tag of $1.5 million tax dollars coming from federal coffers. State purchasing rules usually require a competitive bidding process to make sure taxpayers get the most bang for their buck.
But that is quite lengthy. It takes several months.
And no one had that kind of time.
It's not a situation where you would look and say, was this the best investment? We were in an emergency situation.
ID.me is a federally certified credential service provider being used by several states, as well as multiple federal agencies, including Veterans Affairs, Treasury, and the Social Security Administration.
And ID.me is not a new company. But they obviously took on a lot of government contracts at the same time.
Claimants like Janelle Clark and William Carter,
The system is incompetent.
have been stuck in a verification logjam.
It doesn't make sense to me because they're basically duplicating what the state was already doing. Uploading a driver's license, uploading a social security number. They've added taking a video selfie.
Janelle started with DETR.
So I uploaded my social security card, my driver's license, my passport, my birth certificate, pretty much everything but a blood sample.
After 10 weeks with no money, she went through the same process with ID.me.
I've now been manually verified by their employees and verified through ID.me, and they still have a problem with my identity.
How do we address the concerns of people who feel like our federal tax dollars are going for something that's not working?
Well, I would not agree with the premise that they're not working. ID.me has been able to successfully process over 90% of the folks who apply through the online process.
DETR Director Elisa Cafferata and ID.me Senior Vice President Pete Eskew say the primary problem is fraudsters, who account for nearly half of all claims being filed.
And so the goal for us, for state and federal business, is to make sure that the individuals that are truly hurting can gain access to the benefits while preventing criminals from taking money out of the system.
And that inevitably delays the legitimate claimants.
It does. But what we're doing is we're also saving Nevada and all of our state partners money that they would have been paying out to criminals.
Legitimate claimants dealing with 5- and 6-hour wait times to speak to one of ID.me's trusted referees say the company needs to do better.
I don't know why it got so complicated. It sounds like maybe ID.me bit off a bit more than they could chew.
Eskew says ID.me is hiring hundreds of new workers for its online platform and plans to open in-person offices in June here in Las Vegas and nationwide.
So we're trying to combat the wait times that you're hearing about.
His advice to cut the wait? Wake up early.
Enter the queue in the mornings of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Particularly the morning means East Coast time. So I would try and push them to go then when we have more staff that are available to handle those calls, if their schedule allows.
Another company handling calls for Nevada is getting an even bigger chunk of our federal tax dollars to help man the phone lines in Dieter's UI call center. Maximus got a $6.4 million no-bid contract, which also goes through the end of 2021.
They actually have UI experience in other states, and they hire people with UI experience. So that was why the emergency contract was granted to them.
Dieter eventually plans to transition all calls to state employees who can handle complicated claims, but Cafferata says the experience is improving.
The escalations now are, those folks are called back within the week, and we have made significant progress in our PUA backlog. And then we're going to redeploy some of those resources to the UI backlog.
There are about 2,000 people in the PUA backlog compared to 47,000 in regular unemployment. For those awaiting appeal, more than 2,200 are pending review in UI, which Dieter says will take about 2 months to get through. In PUA, more than 25,000 appeals need to be reviewed before they're considered valid. If you're having a problem specifically with ID.me, we can help. Send me an email with a description of your issues and your contact information, and we will help you get it handled. I've got my email address as well as some tips on how to avoid duplication between Dieter and ID.me on our website at ktnv.com. Darcy Spears, 13 Investigates.